Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and all set up for another Tintri Tuesday. I'm actually going to give you a bit of a demo of Tintri's storage platform today. But one thing I did want to do is just show you that these are actually live. So we're actually live streaming on LinkedIn Live.
Good
Uh,
afternoon, it's Lee
in
Cassidy from
fact,
Tactile
let me just
Technology.
make sure I've got no audio on my screen where I'm looking at for comments at the same time. But what I thought I'd do is just show you what it looks like. So we're actually set up, if you can see, with multiple screens. I've got a Rode mic to try and get the audio decently, and we're also using OBS, which is a streaming broadcast technology. A lot of people use it for gaming streams, so people on Twitch and many other providers of those kind of streams use OBS because it allows you to manipulate the actual look and feel of it in real time. So we're not recording this and editing it to add the bits in afterwards. As you can see, as I'm looking here, I can actually select myself to go to this, and we've already got a banner set up with the particular pieces. If I want to go to the presentation mode, it's just showing me the second screen over here, so you can actually see everything live on there. So just wanted to make sure people could actually see that this is actually a live stream. It's not something that's been pre-canned for you and edited and logos and things added. It is a live stream that we're pushing out. So if you've got any comments on it, if you're watching this live, if you've got any questions, just please ask the questions. And if you want to join us for any of the other streams I do one every day at 3 o'clock. Mondays it's all around containers and Kubernetes. Tuesdays more around intelligent infrastructure. Wednesdays around IT operations and AI ops. Thursday I talk about the business and what we're doing in the business, and we've got a great guest tomorrow. We've got Ian from Aston University and the Advanced Services Group with us to talk about what we're doing with them. And then Fridays we talk about hybrid cloud security infrastructure and access control with Ricardo. But any question you've got, please ask away as we go along. And what I'm going to do is jump into demonstrating this. But I thought it'd be good to show you that we are doing this live. It's not canned at all. It's all set up using OBS to make it look a little bit more slick, so we can put in things like logos and things and frame the video rather than just one big frame, so you can actually see what's happening. So I'll jump back to me again. So like I say, Tintri is what we're talking about today. It's a storage platform. We've been involved with Tintri for around about 8, maybe 9 years now. So they came to the UK about 8 years ago. They've had some changes. They had some issues financially, and they were picked up by the DDN group. So they're much better financially now. But the technology itself has always been a great technology. And many of our customers who use the technology have said it's been great for them because as they've gone along, they've not had to worry about the workloads they put onto it. And also it's given them better ways to identify and diagnose issues in the infrastructure, which I'll show you quite quickly when I get into the demo side of things. So what I'll do is I'll jump over to the presentation now. So you can see hopefully the infrastructure there. So the dashboard shows us things like the amount of IOPS. Our system's not using a great deal of IOPS at the moment, and we're not pushing it very hard because we use this for demonstration purposes, but we could put on there some virtual machines that would actually generate IOPS and generate latency and things. But we're not using those at the moment. We've just got some standard workloads on there, and you can see some of the figures. So across the top, there's some performance figures around IOPS, throughput, and latency, and it's giving you ranges as well over a period of time. Below that, we've got 2 meters. And the first one is talking about performance. So this is how much performance available in the controller. And there are dual controllers on the system, but they're in an active passive format, so that if it does switch over to secondary controller because there was a hardware or software failure, you don't lose any performance at all. It's exactly the same level of performance. But what this is showing is that we've actually got 85% of the processing capacity free on this system. This is a 6070 platform with around about 28 terabytes of physical space available. And what we're seeing is with the workloads we've got on at the moment with both deduplication and compression, we're getting about 1.9 times, so about double the capacity that we've got of the physical. So it's looking more like around about 54 terabytes in there. So, not too bad, giving you that extra capacity. We can also see how much is taken with live data, how much is taken with the snapshot, so data protection, and how much is free on that line. So it gives us a good picture of what's available to us going forward. But what we can do, though, is drill down into the actual virtual machines and see the virtual machines. And at the moment, I've got it by the virtual machine name. I've got how much IOPS each one is generating. I've also got how much throughput, so megabits per second, and also any latency. And if I put the mouse over any one of them, it actually breaks that latency down into the components of it. So we're not only seeing what latency we're seeing at the storage side, and we can see the colors there. So in this case, that particular machine was generating, well, it's been generating 0.5 millisecond latency at the moment. Before that was 0.9, so we're still sub millisecond in the latency, but it breaks it down into how much is at the host end, how much is in the network, and how much is in the storage. The storage is then broken down into things like contention, flash hit, and how much data has been mirrored. And also, if we put quality of service on there manually for that one, we'd see a throttling figure as well as we slow that particular virtual machine's access to storage down. But it's really interesting that we can actually see quite quickly in a diagnostic where the problem is. So if you had one of your customers or your internal users come to you and say, I'm having some problems with this particular application, you can actually look specifically at that virtual machine that runs that application and see quite quickly what the breakdown is across host, network, and storage. So instead of having to phone up the network team and say, are you having issues at the moment, phone up the VM guys and ask if there's any problems with the VM hosts, you can quite quickly see that information straight there, and it's breaking it down for you. What we can do then is we can drill down even further and go into that particular virtual machine and see the details for that particular machine. So we can see at this point in time, this is real time. So this line here designates real time, and this is past. And what we can do is we look back up to about 7 days on the actual array itself. We can actually use a technology called Tintri Global Center, which will give us 30 days. And then we've got also an online software a service delivery of a analytics platform that will give you up to 3 years, but also give you the ability to model. So we've seen there, a jump in the actual amount of latency at that point. And if I put the mouse over, it'll give you those figures, so we can see the total amount of IOPS in this case is 76, and we can see read and write volumes. If I move to Mbps, it's going to give us throughputs, so we can see the amount of throughput, read and write on there. And if I put down latency, we can see the latency figures, and again it's breaking it down by host, network and storage. And if I would like to, I can look at something like CPU and memory. So now I'm looking directly at the host information, and I'm seeing things like percentage ready, swap space, weight, and CPU usage. So most of the time when we're looking at diagnosing issues with a compute or host environment, it's CPU and memory tend to look at. It really matters if we've got the figures right for the amount of virtual CPU that's needed. And actually giving a workload too much virtual CPU can actually cause problems, because we can have issues around percentage weight on the CPUs because it's got too many CPUs, and it sits there waiting for workload and actually will slow down the actual virtual machine. So we can actually see that figure there. So we can see if we've got a problem around percentage weight, percentage ready, sorry, on the CPU, if we've given it too much CPU, virtual CPU in there. Where in this case we've not. We're giving it exactly the right amount, so it's sat there nice and steady. If we had an issue, we could see that rising, and that would cause more latency with the system. Also, swap space. My background is mid-range and mainframe systems of the past. So, swap was a big thing that you did because you didn't have a great deal of memory. So, what you tend to do is roll some of the memory data into disk and then roll it back into memory when you had some memory freed up. So within a Windows and also a Linux environment, we do have swap space, so we do the same thing. So if we run out of physical memory, we'll actually take things that would normally be in memory but haven't been read recently and roll it onto disk, and then we take it back off again afterwards. With these systems, because it's all flash, it's not that much of an issue when you're doing more swap. But here we can see there's no swap. So the actual machine that we're looking at the moment, which is a SQL Server running, I think it's 2016, it's not having any issues with lack of memory. Otherwise, we'd see it there where we're getting latency around swap space because the amount of swap space that's being used is increasing because it's having to take stuff out of memory to do it. All we're seeing is some CPU activity, and we've actually got a jump here up to 44.8% in CPU. So most likely that server's doing some bit more work. So somebody's running some kind of report or pulling some information from it at the moment, so we can see that rise in CPU activity for that particular workload. So quite interesting the kind of things we can see on here, and on the top graph we can add in different pieces. We can filter by different bits of information, and we can add additional sections on there if we want to look at different areas that we might be of interest to us. So one thing I wanted to show you is this view of the hardware itself. So we've got a EC6070, which is a all-flash array. It's a 2U rack mount unit, and the drives fit across the front, and that's what the front actually looks like. So you can see the mount points where it fits into the rack, and we can see the drive bays across. At the moment, what we've got is a number of the slots, 12 of them fitted with SSDs. And we've also got a hot swap. So the hot spare there sits there in the background, and if we do need to spin up an additional disk because we have a failure, that will come into operation automatically, and we'll get a rebuild on that disk, so we don't have any loss of data. What we can do with this is also expand it as well. But before we do that, I'll just show you some of the things we can see. It's giving us health on temperature and fans to make sure we're not got any issues. It's also got multiple power supplies. So again, it's showing us that the power supplies are healthy at the moment. We're just getting a refresh on there. Finishes. We also see details about the controller A and controller B, again around power, CPU, a variety of other things, and we can also see the network pieces. So each of the units got multiple network for management and multiple network for data as well. It's 10 gig on the data side, but we're only using a single 1 gig management connections on this particular unit. But if we wanted to expand it, what I do is I click the expansion estimator at the top, and at the moment it's showing us where we are at the moment. So we've got effectively 3.84 terabyte drives in there, and we've got 13 of them. 12 of them are actually giving us capacity, and one of them is being used for a hot spare, sorry. But if I expand this out, I can actually see, if I took it, say, to the far end, with all the drives filled, it will actually give us a picture of how much additional physical capacity we would have. So we'd end up with a total of 59.42 of capacity over the 27.9 we had previously. So we can see quite quickly how much additional space we would get. But the system allows us to add one drive at a time. So if I went back to this point, it'll show us what we'd have by adding that one additional drive or two additional drives in there. So we can add them in one at a time, and the system will allow us to add drives one at a time without any loss of service. So all we do is push the drive in the front, and it will actually add that to the capacity and build it into there. So we'll have that additional capacity straight away, and there'll be no downtime. A lot of people with their current infrastructure, if they wanted to add in a drive bay or some additional drives, they have to actually have an outage, a service outage. To do that, with this, we just push in a drive at the front, and we can add in that additional amount of capacity with no downtime at all. So hopefully that's giving you a bit of a picture of what you can do with Tintri. It's also giving you a bit of a picture of how I do these videos. And to apologise because I should have turned my phone off and ringing in the background. Like I say, it is live what I'm doing every day. I normally silence everything off so that if a call does come in, it doesn't affect the videos I'm doing. But again, we're all working from home, so there's a lot of other things that I can't stop, like the doorbell ringing with a delivery driver, the dog barking at a cat walking past the front, and many other things that I'm sure that you're dealing with yourselves as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a picture of how I'm creating these videos. And if I go back to that dual cam view again, just to show you that, we can see that OBS is running on one screen. I've got my demonstration on a second screen that I'm picking up from there. And we've got multiple cameras. I've actually got three. I've got a FaceTime camera that I use normally when I'm doing a Zoom call. So that I've got one camera for the Zoom call, an additional camera, this is a Brio 4K that I'm using for the actual stream video, and also got another HD cam over here that I'm using for like a third view, so you can actually see what I'm up to, because sometimes it's quite interesting to see that. I've added, as we've gone along building these demonstrations and videos out, a number of other pieces, so I'm always interested in what other people are doing, but I've found a couple of key things that that make a difference. Is one, good lighting. So I've got a key light which is an Elgato, and also to actually manage things and drive things using a Stream Deck. It makes life a lot easier, so I can just press a button and jump to my presentation and go to the presentation and the screen I was watching before. So much easier for me to drive that and see how things are working rather than having to click buttons. One of the other problems when you say clicking with the mouse and things on the screen or a trackpad, it can also add in noise. So the actual Stream Deck is a godsend for that. It makes life a lot easier. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. I think we had a few people watching things live. Not had many comments today, but if you've got any questions or anything, ask me afterwards, and I'll respond and comments on there. But again, every day doing a live stream at 3 o'clock. If you want to join me, come along. You might learn something. You might want to teach me something. I'm quite happy to listen to your thoughts and ideas as well, because it's every day's a school day, I think, and soon will be a school day for a lot more children, hopefully, if things go as they should next week. Anyway, thanks ever so much, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next session. Bye then.